We're very lucky to have with us live in the studios this morning, Abba Ifeoma. Abba Ifeoma is a founding member of the Detroit Black Community Food Security Network. She is active in the urban beekeeping community and the lead beekeeper and Sunday work crew leader at D-Town Farm, a project of DBCFSN. She has been a political activist for 17 years and served on the board of directors of the Ifeoma Institute Public School Academy, an African-centered school located in Detroit, for 10 years. Start out and talk about your organization. Tell us how the Detroit Black Community Food Security Network came about.
Okay, it was, we started out really as a group of parents and activists and educators at Ifeoma Institute, where my children went to school, where I was on the board of directors. Just as a group who wanted to grow fresh food and have better quality food for ourselves and our children. So we started out as a group called the Shamba Garden Collective. And we started out just tilling each other's yards. In the spring, we would till each other's yards. We would collectively buy organic seeds. And that's how we got started. We just started tilling each other's yards and attracting as many parents at the school as possible, and some neighbors. And that was in about 2003. And our grocery stores were starting to leave the city at that time. They were dwindling. The major store chains were dwindling. And by about 2007, our very last grocery store chain left, and the community, it was headline news. The community was panicking. Where are we going to get food? And that's when Malik Yakini, he was the director at Ifeoma Institute. That's when he pulled all of us together, the activists, the political activists, food activists in the city, and said we need to answer this call and come up with something that's more substantial to show people that, you can grow your own food. You don't have to panic. And honestly, what was at the grocery store was only, marginally better considering all the preservatives and the chemicals, pesticides, that kind of thing. So the Detroit Black Community Food Security Network was born in February of 2006. We decided that we were going to be a nonprofit organization. We decided that, of course, we'd have to have bylaws, and there were many meetings, just pulling everything together, all the details together of the organization. And we started out with, quite a large membership, but as the real challenges of the work, acquiring the land and working the land, that kind of thing, got going, people kind of fell off a little bit. We got our first plot of land on the grounds of the 4-H Club in Detroit. It was just a regular city-size lot. I'm not exactly sure of the size, but it was just a regular, it had been a house that was on that space and was torn down, and that was where we had our first plots and our first garden tour was at that space. And just 1 year later, they kind of reclaimed that land. They built a senior citizens home on it, actually. And so we were, in search of more land. And so we joined with a church, and they had a half-acre plot. We got half of their half acre, and just a year later, they wanted that back as well. So we finally ended up at D-Town Farm after working with the city, and we've been there ever since. This year will be our 5th year. I'm sorry, our 6th year total. We had our 5th anniversary just this past February, so we're going into our 6th growing season. And we've had several harvest festivals, and it's catching on. Our membership is about we've got about 53 members, and that their families and individuals, as well as organizations. We've partnered with a few schools for our Food Warriors program, and it's very challenging. It's exciting, and we're just happy to be able to serve our community in that way.
So, talk a little bit more about D-Town Farm. How big is it? How do you work on it?
Yes. Okay. D-Town. That's our most visible project. We have 4 acres that we have fenced in total, and we have an additional 3 acres that's not fenced in for actually a total of 7 acres. We're actually working only the 4. We have 4 vegetable plots on 2 acres that we're actively growing on, as well as 3 hoop houses. We've got another hoop house that still needs to be built. It's not an experimental hoop house, but there's only 3 of them in Michigan. It's called Rolling Thunder. It's huge. It's it's 96 feet long, and I don't know, it's about 30 feet wide, and it's actually on wheels. It's really cool. So you plant in the ground and you roll the hoop house over it, and you get this season extension, and then when you're done there, you plant in another plot and you roll it over that plot. And so we're excited to see how this whole thing is going to work. Also, we have mushrooms at D-Town, a mushroom operation where we have reishi mushrooms in logs. Everything is in logs at this point. We do have one bed that is in the ground, but they're mostly in logs. The shiitake mushrooms are in logs. The reishi mushrooms are in logs, and I believe there's cremini mushrooms that are actually in the ground. And because the wood is very, very hard, it's taking quite a while for the mushrooms to actually sprout. If we had weather that was more like here in Seattle, where it was moist, it would take a lot less time. So that's our mushroom operation, and I'm the beekeeper, and we have 2 beehives currently. There's going to be 4 this year. We're adding 2 more hives. We've had not the greatest luck with overwintering. It's not particular to D-Town. We've had problems in Detroit. The organic beekeepers have some difficulty with overwintering, and D-Town was no exception. But I've partnered with a really long-term beekeeper from many years back. His name is James Woods, and he's partnering with us to just lend his expertise. I've been keeping bees. This will just be my 3rd year, so I need a mentor, and he's a great local mentor. So we're going to add 2 additional hives this year, and in the past we've just had the traditional Langstroth hive, which is kind of just a square box. People have seen them. But this year we're going to do 2 top bar hives. They're Kenyan top bar hives, and they're kind of actually long and horizontal. And so we're adding those, and I'm very excited to start with that. We're going to build them, and there's a local bee club that I'm a part of. Can I give the name? Mm-hmm. Yes, Sweet on Detroit. Run by Keto Pilak and the Greening of Detroit. It's a really wonderful bee club that, like-minded people who are still novices. We still experiment around and support each other in our beekeeping endeavors. So with Sweet on Detroit, we're going to build the hives, and I'm looking forward to it. Also at D-Town, we have a compost operation that we're ramping up this year. I came back from a 5 months of classes just on the weekends at Growing Power in Milwaukee, commercial urban agriculture. And the project, when you go through commercial urban agriculture classes, you have to choose a project that you're going to take back to your community and really work. And the project that we chose was composting. Myself and another D-Town person, we chose composting, and so Growing Power is actually going to come to D-Town and help us ramp up our compost operation in August 11th through the 16th. Through the 15th, they're going to come to D-Town and help us build our compost operation. And speaking of Growing Power, last year we became a regional outreach training center for Growing Power, which we're very excited to partner with Growing Power in that. And part of our charge is to learn everything that we can in commercial urban agriculture training. Last year, we had 3 people go. This year, 2 people, myself and Kadiri Senefer, we both went. And part of our charge is to come back and help train the community. So we're very excited about that.
It's great. It brings a whole new meaning to the that acronym ROTC.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And I'm delighted that it brings a new a new meaning to it.
Define what overwintering is, and do you keep bees for the pollinating your crops, or for honey, or for both?
It's for both. Overwintering, of course, we have just brutal winters in Michigan, and so there are things that you can do in the fall to help prepare the bees, and organic beekeepers don't do any sort of medication or drugs or anything like that. Last year, I put bales of hay around my beehives, and there are some people that use tar paper, actually staple tar paper around the hive, and you give them extra pollen and extra carbohydrates to help keep them healthy in the winter. And again, organic beekeepers try not to do any chemicals at all. And some of us have had good luck, and some of us, it's really kind of hit and miss. So the local beekeeping association, Shamba, Southeast Michigan Beekeeping Association, there was a gentleman there who's one of the county heads of it, Dennis Holly, and he's really kind of recommending that we do a little something so our bees don't suffer and die. The organic folks are just nothing. We're not, no good, no drugs, no nothing. Well, there may be a happy medium in there so we don't lose our bees. So I do want to listen to what he does because he's largely successful with overwintering for many years. So I do want to get some advice from him as well for D-Town. Usually in the spring is really a critical period for our bees, for bees in Michigan in general. Sometimes they can make it through the winter, but in the spring when we have days where it's quite warm and then days where, you freeze again, that's when the bees can really, it's just a very tricky time. March, April can be a time that we lose our bees. That's almost the worst time for us.
Do you get any resistance from neighbors about raising bees? Bee fear.
Now, for us, we're in a public park. I forgot to mention that. We're actually our farm is in the largest park in Detroit. It's called Rouge Park, and so we're on our tract of land only has neighbors on the west side. The rest is just completely open land, and our farm actually sits slightly up a hill, and then we have a 10-foot deer fence. So it's kind of, and it's a lot of trees and everything actually in front of the fence. There's a lot of brush, so it's kind of hard to see us. So our neighbors don't really know that there's bees. The only way that they could really tell is, all of their flowers are much more beautiful and their vegetables are larger and everything just looks greener in their yards.
I thought I heard you mention earlier food warriors.
Yes, that's one of the projects of the Detroit Black Community Food Security Network. That's our youth component, and we've partnered with 3 schools, 3 African-centered schools in Detroit, and to this point, the Food Warriors program is at the schools only because we haven't had funding to this point for a full-time coordinator for that position. So at the schools, we work with the youth with gardens, but we just got we were just able to get the funding, and we have a posting for that job, and I believe it's a national posting, so you may actually see it, for a education and youth coordinator. And we will actually have a full-time person that will work at the farm and at the schools with the youth. So we're excited to get that up and going.
And is your organization working with using some of your food to get into the schools themselves?
Yes, we are. As a matter of fact, Detroit Public Schools has they had great interest in getting local food. Period, not just from our farm, but from other farms and gardens as well. So we're excited to nurture that as well. But we're working with Detroit Public Schools. Now, our other schools, our partner schools with the Food Warriors, I don't know for sure that they're using food from our farm. I know that they're eating food out of the gardens that are at the schools. So I'm sure that will happen when we get our full-time coordinator, and we'll have children at the farm as well as at the school.
Can you talk about your efforts specifically on food security? I understand that your organization works with other organizations about working on the whole lifeline of how food gets to you and is distributed and such.
We're really still developing that. We're still developing the relationships with organizations that are regional, specifically Ohio, Illinois, and Wisconsin, and we're still putting that distribution network together, that food system together. We haven't fleshed out those details yet. But that is one of the projects that we are working on actively. We are working actively on it, and that's really about as much as I can say about it at this point, because it's still under development.
Yeah, but it's intriguing because if you look at those of us that are dependent on these giant food stores and
Yes.
such, a lot of people aren't aware of how that stores these days only have about 3 days worth of food in them at the most, and it's all based on computers, and it comes.
Yes.
And if any of that breaks down, we're all toast.
Yes, that's for sure. We're all toast. And for us in the Midwest, in the winter, we'd really be toast, because there's no food that we can grow except in the hoop houses, and that's mainly cold crops. So to build our linkage also in the South, I forgot to mention North Carolina, the linkage that we're building there as well. We'll be able to get some produce from down south in the winter as well.
And the hoop houses are like.
Those are temporary greenhouses. It's just basically, aluminum hoops, literally kind of hoops with Visclean, really, really thick Visclean plastic over the top to let some passive solar heat come in and extend our growing season.
So I understand your organization has also worked with your city council in getting policy instated there. Could you talk about that?
Yes, that's one of the things that we really are the most proud of is our food policy. Our organization pulled a group together, and we really led the effort in writing the food policy for the city of Detroit, which included a food policy council to make sure that everything in the food policy was shepherded along. And in March of 2008, the city council did approve it and adopt it for the city of Detroit. So we got our food policy council in place, and it's active. And actually, I have a report of I have a report that just the executive summary that I brought with me for the food system in Detroit. Our food policy council just a couple weeks ago, as a matter of fact, had a conference, not a conference, but it was kind of a conference regarding food in Detroit and the state of food, the food system in Detroit. And so I have this executive summary from that. There is a larger report that was just really too heavy for me to bring all those copies with me, but there'll be an executive summary for I have 50 copies for my talk tonight to give to everyone.
So the food policy group, I'm not getting that right. The food
policy council.
So what do they actually do for Detroit? What is their role? What are they?
The role of the food policy council really is to make sure that the food policy that was written for the city is actually carried out. So that's really what their role is, to just to make sure that that people in the city are serviced in the way that that was voiced in the food policy, and that we also, before we actually adopted the food policy or gave it to the city council for approval, we had these listening sessions. So we made sure that we heard what the community wanted and needed, and then we handed it to city council. And so we need to make sure that it's carried out, and that's their job.
Okay. Talk about the cooperative buying program.
Oh, yes. Our food co-op. Currently, our food co-op is based on the membership in Detroit Black Community Food Security Network and their families. You can have their different levels of membership in the food co-op, and but it's not exclusive to DBCFSN. It is open to others who want to come in, and we buy from a source that's not as secure as we would like. It's just a major health food distributor, and we buy in bulk, and once a month people come and pick up food, as well as food from our farm. This year, of course, it's not ramped up until all the vegetables are, we're just starting the growing season for this year. So we had our first pickup, and we had, like salad greens and the cold crops so far. But that's basically the program until we get our food distribution network set up where we can incorporate more food from the other, around the region. This is what it is so far, just ordering from the distributor and food from our farm.
So what's your ideal situation for where you want to take your organization, let's say in the next 10 years or in your lifetime, to create true food independence and security? I mean, would you envision every other block devoted to growing food, or?
What we envision is being one, using the D-Town Farm as a demonstration to show people all of the different aspects of everything that can be grown in Detroit, including growing your own soil from your own waste, from your own food waste. Also, teaching, being a demonstration farm, being able to teach, and to act as a resource for the area, and showing the children that your food comes from not the grocery store or from the gas station. To have vegetable trucks that go to senior citizens' homes to deliver fresh food and vegetables, as well as that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. To be able to distribute our food, to be able to teach people to grow the food, and to be a resource for the community.
How can people find out more about your organization?
We have a website. It's called the address is DetroitBlackCommunityFood.org.
All right. Well, with that, I want to thank you for coming in and spending time with us this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.